Lewis, I'll start with you. Since we're talking trades here, you can't talk trades without thinking about Miami, especially given their need for a quarterback. What do the Dolphins need to do tonight?
Well, it's interesting with the Dolphins because according to Adam Schefter they've already tried to make the biggest move possible to go to #1 so they could pick Joe Burrow. Well, now with that being off the table, what do I think they need to do? I think they need to just sit back and sit there at #5 and really make a decision about whether or not they think that Tua Tagovailoa is worth the risk. Or if they really believe in Justin Herbert, then go ahead and pick him. And then, as you move down in the draft, they have 2 more #1s, then you can go ahead and try and address the offensive line position. But I think what's interesting about this is the more and more I talk to others and kind of get other people's opinions, and the more I start to think about this situation and hear what some of the chatter says, could the Dolphins really be sitting there at #5 and pass on the quarterback and take one of the top offensive tackles, if not the top offensive tackle on the board, based upon what the Giants do ahead of them, and then address the quarterback position later at 18 or try to move up from 18, say to the 12, 11, 10 range, and then get the quarterback that they want if Tua starts to slide. So, honestly, I think at #5 they need to just go ahead and stand pat and just see how it falls to them. If they don't want the quarterback, go ahead and pick a position player and then start dealing in the back half of the first round, in the midsection of the first round, and see if you can address your quarterback position there.
And I agree with that from a standpoint. The risk right now, it's too much to take that part of the draft for this reason. He has a complicated medical injury. And unless I could have my experts and my doctors evaluate him, I would not take him in the top 10. There's too much at stake to make this transformational decision on a very complicated injury. Let's hope that he maximizes his talents and his abilities and turns out to be the great player that he is and the talent that he is. But without actually having your experts examine the player, it's really hard to do that. Now, I know my esteemed colleague, Dan Orlovsky, is going to talk about chasing greatness. And I'm all about chasing greatness. And I know about taking risks. I hired Rex Ryan. That's taking a risk. I traded for Mark Sanchez. I traded for Brett Favre. There is a time and place to take risks. But this is not the time to do that. Not with this injury, not in this weird year where you can't examine the player.
Mike T, I love you. I just totally disagree. It wasn't the time for the Baltimore Ravens to go back into the first round and get a guy who a lot of people thought couldn't play quarterback in the NFL, in Lamar Jackson, but they did, and they were 14-2. And it wasn't time for the Chiefs to go up and go get Patrick Mahomes. They were a playoff football team with Alex Smith, but they decided to do it. It paid off. It wasn't time for the Eagles to sit back as their 1 seed in the playoffs and go, you know what? We trust in Nick Foles. And then on 4th and goal, run a trick play against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady to win the Super Bowl. It wasn't time for the Saints to go onside kick against Peyton Manning at halftime in the Super Bowl, but they did it. We have so much evidence in the end. You're trying to go win a championship. Like, if you're trying to go be great, you have to be willing to take some risk. And I'm aware of the risk with Tua, but just as much risk is with taking him is with passing him. I mean, this is the guy that Nick Saban 2 years ago turned to at halftime in the national championship game and said, dude, you got to go win this game for me. Nick Saban said, if you pass on Tua, and you will regret it the same way I regret passing on Drew Brees. The last coach that said something like that about a player was Dabo Swinney. He said, if you pass on Deshaun Watson, it's like passing on Michael Jordan. And we all feel the same way about Deshaun Watson. So I just think, like the Dolphins, do you want to be the same old Dolphins? Like, do you really want to take the chance on passing at greatness? Do you want to take a chance on passing on a guy that could become the best player at the most important position? I think you got to roll the dice and try to become great.
But well, here's what I would say. When you're height deficient and you're speed deficient, it has to be perfect for Tua to be successful. You look at Drew Brees, he became really successful when they had a really good offensive line. You look at Baker Mayfield, he struggled because they haven't had a good offensive line. Tua is speed deficient. He's had multiple lower body injuries. So the infrastructure has to be exactly right for him to be successful.
And I would agree with that, Mike T.
I'll say this. Let me just say this, though, about Tua.
Go ahead.
Let me say, guys, let me jump in here real quick. Let me just say this, though, about Tua. From my own personal opinion, the only thing that gives you pause in this situation, obviously, is the risk associated with the injury. As far as his height, as far as his 40 time, as far as anything physical, as far as how he plays the position, I have absolutely zero, and I mean less than zero reservations about the way the young man plays. If he's anywhere, if he's 95, 98% close to what he was before he got hurt, his movement in the pocket is absolutely stellar. I posted a video clip just the other day of him against Ole Miss, avoiding a rush coming off his front side, stepping up in the pocket, fading left, and hitting about a 25-yard sail route to Jerry Jeudy on the sideline. It doesn't get any better than that. It just absolutely doesn't. Now, Mike, I know what you're saying as far as making sure that you are built inside out on the offensive line from center to guard to make sure he has pocket protection. But as far as his height and finding throw lanes, look, he was throwing over absolute mountains at Alabama, and he did it just fine. They will spread the field just fine for him, and he's one of those guys who, quite honestly, as Steve Young says, it looks like artwork when he's actually playing. He's like painting a canvas, painting a masterpiece when he's playing the game. It's just whether or not you're comfortable with his hip. And I will say this, our esteemed colleague Stefania Bell, who is very much so dialed in with the people who have been the closest to Tua as far as his rehab and how he is progressing along, says that he is doing absolutely right. He is right on target right now, and there are no reservations as far as those people are concerned. So I'm telling you, if I'm sitting there at 5 and I'm in the Dolphins war room, you'd have to talk me out of not taking him. You wouldn't have to talk me into taking him if I sat pat at 5.
Yeah, Lou's got me fired up. I think the big thing for Tua, and I believe he's smart enough to do this, learn that you are not Russell Wilson, but you are Drew Brees. Understand that's how you have to play quarterback, is to get through things, and if it's not there, get the ball to your hands. Don't run around, because that's where the injuries happen. I think he's smart enough to figure out, and Lou is exactly right on Tua.
All right, Dan, let's not kid ourselves, though. It's not Louis Riddick that fired you up. You started the day fired up, but nonetheless, we'll take it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.